All right.
Sorry about the books, guys, too. I'll tell you about those.
Okay, so we are going to kind of pick up where we left off. All right, so again, we're looking at the phonological awareness piece, segmenting, blending, and letter ID. We talked about instructional support with sounds, and then we talked about that activity 1 of beginning sounds and using the cards to identify using ABC tiles or beginning letter sounds of words. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about those Elkonin boxes today. And I just wanted to show you, so some of you probably have your, some of these, if not, I have them for you as well. And so what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about is the different strategies that you can use for these. There is some accessible boom cards that you can do with this. We did a little bit of it last time, but the benefits are there's that article that's going to go through the importance of the benefits of the Elkonin boxes within your text that you're more than welcome to read through, but I'm just going to kind of skim it for you. It enhances their phonic awareness skills. So there's a different variety of ways you can do that, which I think can get people confused. So what you want to do is you can first describe the vocabulary word, what it is, because like if you have language learners, they're probably going to struggle with even identifying what the picture is. Then you want to make sure when you are doing this that it is sounds they master. Like if you go back and look on red and they don't know what the A is, then they're not going to be able to do it within the text here as well. The other thing that I think we talked about being important is you can have dry erase. So you could have it laminated where they could dry erase. You could put this on a cookie tray. You could do it as magnetic tiles. But you also, for that multi-sensory aspect, you could use these sandpaper letters where they get to trace and go over it as well. The one thing that I will tell you not super focused on would be the actual handwriting of what they do, and within there just making sure they're reversals unless you wanted it to be. But then if you wanted it to be, you could go through with like a black Sharpie and draw in the handwriting lines, because if you don't have that, I wouldn't be super hyper focused on that. Now I also have these, which can be helpful with that handwriting aspect if you wanted to bring it in. However, that isn't the activity that we're talking about or one of the main things, but you can use sound mapping boards if you have these, and I have these if you need. What I like about these is they have the 3 specific, there is no picture. So if you're doing this, you would just want to provide the vocabulary words, and I kind of wanted to show you that because you will be provided you have these vocabulary words. So you could do these if you didn't want to make the Elkonin boxes individually like this, and you want to just have this for accessibility of children, and then they do the 3, you just have to have the visual. So you show them the visual, they go through, they put in the picture, they tap out the sounds, they do the sweep, and then they would write it. So this is kind of an all-in-one encompassing of the sound boxes. Now, it does have extension, so if you get to the point where they're able to do the CVC words and you want to break it up to CCVC words or CVCC words, then the sound mapping boards are very, very helpful for that. The other thing you could use is you could give them with the Elkonin boxes. So if you wanted to do the multi-sensory tiles, then you could do the magnetic tiles. You still can pull in the sound phones, so they could do like the at and do this with the sound phones. The other option is you can have cards that you could do with that, where you could give them cards, you could give them magnetic letters. What I would suggest if you wanted to do something like this is you could even just place this as a center. So if you do guided practice and they've mastered it, place this as a center where they get to form them themselves. So that's just another cool way that you can use those. So definitely use the boom cards. That's really a great hook. Okay, so word ladders are kind of an extension of that. So I want to show you a little video of some people teaching word ladders. Let's see if it decides to work today. So you can see how she does it. Do you want to be there? Did you see it?
Yeah.
Fireplace?
relaxing.
Do you plug in both?
Is the YouTube video muted?
No. My sound worked earlier. What about your computer sound?
Okay, well, I can talk to it while you watch it.
Okay.
So this is just an example of how they do that. You give them the ladder, I don't know why there's no sound, and then you give them the letter tiles, and then they are forming the letter words. Now, the important part of this is going to be like substitution and deletion and changing, omitting sounds. So what they're working through is they're keeping the beginning part together and they're changing as they move through. So you'll see now they change the vowel, they change the ending, they change the vowel, and then they continue to work through. So you're keeping that beginning, you're changing up some things. Now this is an example of a word ladder that, let's see, it's gonna change the beginning sound on this one. I wish you could hear it.
I like the way, I've never seen the word ladder with the vowels and consonants different colors.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I like how it's
And-
pulling it up so like they can make the sound.
Yep.
I'm sure they're making them as they see.
So one really cool thing, and I have these, is these, and you're more than welcome to borrow these if you ever need them, is they are colored. It just happened, I found this video and I thought it was great because I have these colored, where the vowels are specific to a different color, which I think is really, really important. But there's different ways to do word ladders, and I think that's what kind of gets people like tripped up with word ladders sometimes. So I'm gonna let this play and then I'm gonna talk to you guys about some other, sorry you can't hear it, but you can see it.
Pretty visual anyways.
I had second graders come in, so maybe it's
Look taller.
Mm-hmm.
Got hug.
Nice.
Good
Nice
job.
word. Hug.
There's not that many.
Hug.
And you could actually, like, you could pull this up and you could actually go through the progression of it with your students to talk about like a hook of it. There is also going to be boom cards that you are able to do. What I will tell you is, again, like you pointed out, the colored vowels are really helpful for those leveled learners that are lower, that are struggling with identifying the difference in a vowel. The other thing that I think is really neat, and I put some copies of the word ladders in there for you, but when you are doing word ladders, and this is obviously specific to kids that probably would be maybe a little bit more advanced, which didn't need a visual for that. But I did want to give you some that are going to have some visuals. So you'll see that they also are going to be grouped by the vowel. So when they're struggling with those vowels, and a lot of our students that were struggling with identifying those vowel sounds. So when they're struggling with those vowel sounds, you still want to give them those visual reminders. And I would solely focus on one vowel at a time to build those ladders. So you can focus on short A, then you could go on to short E. It also is really cool because it also will go into those nasaled sounds. So you're gonna hear different A, you're not gonna hear the traditional A. Short I, all the way through to short U. And then there is a review at the end that would be an all-encompassing. Now, one thing that I thought with this one was you could do this as your assessment. There is that other part to word ladders and to families into that packet that I gave you for the assessments, but I just think that this having visuals is still a really good way to just assess that they know all of those in the word ladders. This is different in the sense that it doesn't have the pictures, but also it isn't just focusing on one specific vowel sound. This word ladder is focusing on changing out the vowels to see, which is definitely a good skill. However, when they're starting out, it's probably going to be better off for you to focus on those students identifying just the short A words and changing those short A words as they go. Okay. Do you guys think this is something, like how would you, like if you were looking at the kids that we identified as your lower learners, like I think getting to this is a very big stretch for
Oh, yeah,
my friends that are in those red areas.
yeah, I think focusing on just the one vowel sound.
Right.
With getting that solid with
Right.
before moving on.
We could start with just changing the initial sound too,
Mhm.
so like, you know, keeping
Right.
the vowel sound and then only changing, cause that's the easiest way.
Right.
And then once they're master that, then
Then
we
move to
can,
the ending
yeah, the
sound.
final
Right.
sound.
I think that this is, when I'm looking at the 3 skills to go for, so if you're looking back at the 3 skills that we would go to, I think this one is gonna be harder for the students to get to. I don't know if you guys feel that way. I feel like this is going to be a huge focus of that skills for those kids that were in that red, because they're really struggling with just the identification and blending of those sounds. So I feel like getting the identification of the sounds and knowing what's that beginning sound, what's that ending sound, what's that middle vowel sound is going to take a significant amount of time to do that. So essentially this early activity is broken into 3, because really you're gonna focus first on those beginning sounds, then you're gonna focus on the ending, then you're gonna focus on the middle. Then you can build it once they identify beginning, middle, and end, but then you're gonna go to the word ladders. And I think it's gonna take a really long time to get some of my low learners to even get to this point, which is also pulling in the rhyming aspect
Right.
of that.
But it's good to show the progression of where to start
Yep.
based on where they are.
And and I like the word ladders because it also focuses on that spelling aspect and the vocab all in one. So it's like 2 in 1 to add on to the support of the manipulation of letters. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is when you're looking at those beginning sounds and the assessment, I'm kind of gonna show you a little bit with that. I have printed out some of these, and I will share this with you, but this is another one I found that I think would be really supportive for your kids, and this can go, really, this would probably be more, I would say, in this specific area, but what you would do, instead of just giving them the cards, you could give them the cards with their pictures, go through the vocabulary, but then guided practice with them is they can identify the words. Now, they're not gonna read the entirety of the word, but I liked this one because I was able to find it where each of the letters is different. So you're not seeing 2 of the same pictures that might start with an L or start with an I, where it's confusing to them. These are all solely going to be specific to 1 letter, beginning sound. So that's really, really another good guided practice you could do, and there is a ton of them that I can send to you guys as a resource that I thought was really cool. And then the other thing with that assessment piece is when you're looking at that phonemic assessment piece for this one, you can tie, once you get to this point of doing the word ladders, you will have great data, because you will have you could tie this into rhyming. Like you said, Rachel, changing the beginning sounds, you can do the rhyming. Syllables kind of isn't gonna be approached at this point, but you can get to that. You will have done your initial sound. You will do blending phonemes, because your blending phonemes is going to be your Alcona boxes. You could do segmenting, because that also falls into your Alcona boxes. And then you have, and then you have the advanced. So the advanced could be the word ladders in the sense of the video where you saw the substitution, the adding, and the deletion of how they did it. So I don't know, this is something that I think even if we just cut it apart and we were able to use one specific skills, let's say in the beginning of the year, we decided, okay, hey, we're gonna work on initial sounds, and we're gonna cut that part off, and that is gonna be our sole focus, and this is the students that really struggle with this. And it really could be, you know, like 4 weeks in, we could say, okay, we've done these specific letters, whatever, we're gonna work on that. And then you can tie it into rhyming, and I just think it's really cool data to bring, because it's small, it's quick, it's short, it's efficient, and it's got, you know, it's consistent between all of us. So what do you guys think about that?
I like that. I really like it.
Obviously syllables would be later in the year, but that's the thing that's nice, is it's made so that we can cut it apart to be specific to like those specific needs that those kids have. But it's also a good guidance, because it wouldn't be hard if we decided we wanted to make something more than this. So thinking about your, like, you know how we were talking about the end of the year
I
assessment?
know.
This would be something
That's
that
what
would be,
yeah.
like, when you teach it, you test it and you save it and then it's there for you, right? And then the kids that struggle, that's when we pull in the activities of however we choose and whatever their needs are, and you work through, those different skills.
I love that this assessment has 3 times to do it, so like,
Yes.
Yeah, that you can.
you can
go
go
see
back
the
and really
direction.
see the data and it's clear, like if you're sitting at a conference with a parent,
Mhm.
you know, you can really see,
The first
was it
time.
the same one every time?
Yep.
You know, did we increase, you know, did that change kind of thing?
It's great for
That's
progress
so great.
monitoring too. Like if you have a kid that didn't, we sit there so often and we're like, what are we gonna do for the progress monitoring? We can easily pull,
I mean,
we
it's
can
great
pull this
for
out
ours, yeah,
and pull that, and its consistency across the grade level, which I
Yeah.
think is so valuable to be helpful for that. The other thing and the last thing, which I think you guys are all kind of familiar with, but you know, we're gonna share it, is the kind of technology pieces that we can pull into the kids. So obviously, you know, you can do, I'm gonna pull one up to show you, but you know, you can do Lexia, you can do, iReady, you can do Magic Learning, Prodigy. I've never ventured into Prodigy with the kindergartners.
I have,
Have you done that?
if they know how to use it from an older sibling, it's
Yeah,
great, if
okay.
they don't, I would not.
Okay.
Because I don't know enough about it to be able to answer their questions, and they have
Okay.
not.
Are there, speaking of technology, are there word ladders already made that are like videos like that?
Yeah.
Like that you found?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never,
Yeah.
I know that the county had the ones on their phonics lesson plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I've pulled those up before, but they're not colored like that, but I've never even thought to look for like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
word ladder videos.
Yeah, they're great. Okay, this is the other one I wanted to kind of talk with you. I'm happy to share what I have, and I have I have some of those, from my, grad school partner that's in the kindergarten class in another school that I can share with you. So I don't know if you have Epic. Have you guys seen Epic?
Yes.
Okay. Epic is fantastic for students. It is got, obviously we're not doing DRA, but in the past when we did the diagnostic reading assessment, DRA was on there. But Epic is just a really awesome way to get kids to, you know, these kids so often aren't actually hearing stories, right? You don't know what they're going home and hearing. So what I like about Epic is you can sign up for free. The students are able to get on here and there is Read to Me. So they can get on to their devices. They could choose to have a story. You can search by like a topic. So let's say we're doing animals and you want it to read to them, and it's gonna read to them. They just have to push play. Obviously we aren't hearing it, but you go through, it puts boxes, like the Alcona boxes around the words that are being read to the student. So they're able to see it, which I think is really, really cool. And it just is a read aloud. It's letting them track. So if you're not doing, like, I like to give them the books for Listening Center. I think that so often that's important, but I also think this is a great resource just to give them, and there's usually a class code that you can give them to do. So if you go out and you see a class code under your name, so you can go to audiobooks, there's gonna be videos of different things that they're able to do that are kind of informational or not. You totally choose. Read to Me, and then you can also have them read without Read to Me. So if you don't want their book to read to them and you want to pre-read it and then have a little like response to literature at the end, you can do anything like that. So this is where you're gonna get your class code, and then they would type it in and they will be able to go through. So like you could edit the way that you would do, like you could do Fonda Spinell's not one, we could do Lexile, we had that, AR is not one we do. Or you just set it to what you do their DRA comparable to what our guided reading would be. So just another really cool resource if you don't have Epic. It's a really great resource, and it really hits all the students. It's not just going to be for the students that are readers, it's also for the students, ESOL students learning to read, EIP students that are struggling. It's just hearing the language. And again, the boxes around the words is super, super helpful. So just another resource that I thought if you guys, like I do with Amelia, little girl. If you guys were interested, Epic is a great resource. Anybody have any other resources they know of technology wise that we don't know of?
I think so.
All right, you guys good?
Good job,
Yeah.
thank you.
Epic's on Clever, by the way, for the
Yes.
kids.
So are we?
Oh, it
allowed-
is?
Okay, yeah,
Are we allowed to use it?
it's on Clever, so we should be allowed to use
Alright,
it,
cause
yeah.
before it was, you can't use it cause it's
No,
not
I
vetted and so
searched
many
it out.
things.
Yeah.
No, it's on Epic, you just search it in Clever and you can install it.
Yeah, is Boom Card Learning in Epic, or in Clever, just out of curiosity?
Boom cards.
So you could sign up for, yeah, there you go. So
So
all
could-
that
Should
should
we
be,
add all that so that
Oops, oh no.
if they get on this summer?
yeah. So that, I mean, like, I always did the Boom cards in the Epic, I've always given them a classical, but I wasn't familiar that it was under Clever.
Yeah.
But that means that anything that's in your resources library through Clever would be automatically signed up for you. You just get your login and then it's,
Yeah.
you know, okay for them to do.
And then Lexi is not through Clever, but then the math stuff is.
Am I just
Right.
like missing it?
So if you go to search, could you
Okay.
push in Clever or Epic
okay.
reading? Yeah,
Only
there you
the
go.
Kids still need a,
And then you can put install. Yeah.
Nice, okay, yeah, I just had a,
Yeah. So that's something, you know how they do the summer reading? They're gonna teach you about the summer reading program.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
we'll do it this week.
There's not as much, they get points if it's read to them. So when they're going into summer reading, which is, what is the program called?
It's a beanstalk.
Beanstalk.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to actively read the book. As long as they were having
Yeah,
it read
it
to
could
them, they can plug that in for points.
Mhm.
So over the summer, if they used your class code to log in under Epic,
nice.
because they, you know, their parents are busy or whatever, they could still get credit for the books that they're reading, which I think is really, really great. Because they can do any of these resources through the summer through your Clever.
Nice.
Yeah, and then if you push Boom Learning,
Like boom cards?
yeah, you're done. So yeah, I mean, you could do it. They can do any of that stuff throughout the summer if you. But Epic has fiction and nonfiction, which I think is really, really cool. To do that.
Yeah, I've got like my own, I've been using it. I don't even, gosh, what is my, yeah, it's my Fulton address.
Yeah, you should be able to automatically get yourself signed in from the from Cobb
Clever?
County. Yes.
Yeah, it took me to